got a little bit of spare time this morning, so I thought I would try and get through as many guns as possible. Obviously in separate videos, I've got a few to do. You're watching this custom 1911 video. I'm also hoping to take a look at my Colt Police Positive this morning. Tanaka Pegasus gun. And my Western Arms M92F Centurion, which is a slightly shorter M9. The theme for these two is cheap, because I got these both for very good prices. I'll obviously go into this more in its own video, but for now we'll take a look at this nice 1911. I did buy the second hand of Zero In Forum, where I buy a lot of stuff. Got a good classified section on there. Lots of trolls, lots of idiots, but it's good for selling and buying. That's all I can really say about it. Box is a little bit deceptive. It's not really a Night Warrior. In fact, I don't think any of it's Night Warrior. But that's the box this came in. And this is a 1911 that I've done a lot of work to. It started life as half... well, it started life as two separate guns. The lower is an MEU, and the top is from the TM Detonics Combat Master. And this is a little project that I've been doing for maybe a month now, and I think I'm about finished, which is why I decided to make this video. And the goal was, without using that little stumpy Detonics frame, to make a compact 1911 that was different to all the other ones out there. I wasn't going on any particular real steel gun, it was just purely an airsoft creation. And this is a result. It's not really a full in-depth review. I don't really feel I can do a review when it's a gun I've built. That would be a little bit subjective. But yeah, as I said, it started off as two separate guns. The lower is mainly MEU still. Well, at least the frame is, other than what I've done to it. So you've got your checkering at the front, standard MEU mag catch, and normal MEU metal slide lock. That's pretty much where the normal stuff ends, because the back half is totally kind of custom. We've got a silver trigger that I'm not sure if, I suppose the MEU does come with a silver one, so that's straight from the MEU, 3-hole trigger. Standard plunger set. Although I did actually make a thumb piece that goes here, but that is none at the moment, didn't really work too well. As you can see, it is Tokyo Marui, if I didn't make that clear, which I don't think I did. It's a standard plastic frame TM MEU. It used to be an ambidextrous safety, so it'd have the big safety on each side. As I said, I wanted this to be a compact kind of carry style 1911, which is why I shaved a huge amount off the safeties. You can see it's really low profile now, like a Detonics one, which I could have just bought, but I thought I'd try and make this on a budget. So very small safety, clicks into place nicely. And the other side was an ambi. I chopped it off, put a little plug in its place, did the same to the hammer pin thing, just sliced it off, and polished it up, and then coated it in. And this is one thing that I wanted to talk about in this video quite a bit. I don't use paint. So when I modify metal parts, rather than paint, which I really don't like, I use Birchwood Casey Aluminium Black, which is a chemical blackening agent for aluminium, which can pose a problem when most airsoft metals aren't pure aluminium. They're kind of cheap alloys. So you can get some pretty interesting colour combinations that definitely aren't black, but I kind of like that. So this kind of came out almost like a polished Parkerized. It's kind of a grey, greeny, it's a strange colour. And I polished it up with my Dremel. And now you can sort of almost see the silver through it, so it's kind of a very shiny metallic coating, but I think it looks cool. So that was one of the first things I did. Next off, as you can see here, was I bobbed the hammer, which is pretty stupid to do on a single action gun because you're probably going to be carrying it cocked and locked, which is condition 1. And whether the hammer's bobbed or not, it's going to be sticking out the back. It makes much more sense on a double action where you can carry it with the hammer down, flush with the frame, pull the trigger to fire it first shot. But I suppose if you like to carry it unloaded, everything's nice and smooth. That was simply done with the cutting tool on a Dremel. Excuse me. I just stuck the hammer in a vise, literally sawed the back end off, filed it down to a more attractive kind of shape. Still got a little bit of curve to it. And now I think it fits in quite nicely with the back of the gun. And once again, it was finished by dipping in aluminium black just for a second, otherwise it goes a horrible rusty brown. And then polished off with a Dremel polishing bit. So that works nicely. I was wondering if the mass, since the hammer has lost a bit of mass, I didn't know if it was going to sort of not strike as hard, but it's got enough power for any gas that I've put in it, so no issue there. So yeah, that works nicely and gives it this kind of cool, smooth profile without a hammer. Next thing you might be able to notice is the beaver tail, which is pretty heavily modified. It used to curve right up here. Well, maybe not that far, but you know. It also had a more pronounced lump here. That was something I was kind of worried about doing because I thought I'd probably shape it wrong and unsymmetrical and everything, but actually worked quite well. I just dremeled the back off, stuck it in a vise and just kept polishing over it with some sandpaper. Got it to this shape which I like. It's got slight sort of concave sort of form at the back there. Where on the other ones the hammer would kind of dip into it. It's very smooth. As you can see, it's sort of wearing down. One thing about aluminium black, it's not the toughest stuff, so unless you finish it properly and maybe do a clear coat over or something, it will eventually wear down, but it's no worse than paint. So I prefer it. It's very easy to touch up as well. So that's aluminium black on there, very nice and smooth after you've given it a bit of a polish, and that works the way it should. Very low profile, as you can see. That was the whole idea. One of the biggest modifications, which was a bit of a leap of faith to try and do. Well, that's probably not the right term, but I wasn't sure if to do it or not. I just decided, why not? Let's just start chopping it up. I did a bobtail modification to the frame and mainspring housing, which was the hardest thing to do on this because it requires relocation of the pin that holds this in. It means you have to shorten the spring and fill this so the spring doesn't shoot out the bottom. I didn't bother filling the bottom up. That would probably be the neater way to do it. But yeah, I cut it off, sanded it nice and smooth, cut the spring shorter, cut the frame, cut a new pinhole, which didn't work properly, so it's a bit messy. Rounded off the frame. It was a lot of work. And then, of course, I had to modify the grips. Started off with standard Night Warrior grips. That was the only Night Warrior thing about it, really. And which was a bit of a pain because I've obviously got these internal metal pieces. So they had to be sanded down to the right shape. And then spray painted. Also had to do the same with the plastic while trying to keep it all together. And that really won't focus. So I used a bit of filler to fill all the gaps in there. As you can see, there's bits of white showing through. It wasn't a particularly good job. It looked a bit messy on the pistol, and I thought I never liked these grips anyway. So got rid of the Night Warrior grips, and I bought these Bell 1911 grips. Bell have made clones of the 1911 for a while. TM 1911, like just like Army have, very similar. And I saw on RSOV, which is a good cheap Asian website for airsoft parts, budget kind of stuff. They had these oak grips, which, as you can see, this one's got quite nice grain. The other one's not so nice, but still, they're very decent grips, and they were $5. So what, £3.50 for surprisingly good quality wood grips? I think they only have one in stock, so sorry about that, I got the last one. But they also sell CO2 cut 1911 grips if you've got a KJ or something that uses CO2 mags. So that's great. Other websites sell them for about $10, which is still a good price, but RSOV have got lots of really cheap wood grips. Shipping was again about $5, so £8 for quality wood grips. I was very pleased with that. Obviously, as soon as I got them, I had to start chopping them up and add the bobtail sort of cut to it, which I smoothed off, and I sanded the whole grips down, and I refinished it with some B&Q varnish and stain, which is meant to be used on indoor furniture. So you don't have to go get some fancy gun stock wood stain, some birchwood Casey stain or something. You can just go to B&Q. It's about £5 for a big tub. This is called Gloss Mahogany, and I think you'll agree it looks pretty nice. I could always make them a little bit darker, but happy enough how they are. You can see I've cut the standard grip screws. The only complaints I have with these grips is they haven't all been drilled equally, so whereas these screws are properly sort of countersunk in, that's not really countersunk, but they're in properly. These ones stick out. That will probably take a little bit of drill work. Get that in. So anyway, after all of these modifications, I was quite amazed when everything worked properly. I was half expecting something to be sort of out of measurement and mess it all up, but the frame really works as expected. Internals are all standard TM, with obviously slight modifications done by myself. A little bit dirty and used. It was definitely a used gun, but I paid, I don't think I mentioned how much I paid for this. For the Detonics upper, MEU lower, and a TM 1911 magazine. This cost £60. Considering an MEU can cost 150, a Detonics would cost at least 100 and, well, about 100, I think. Airsoft have got some cheap ones. So to get half of both, you're looking at over £100 of value. And I got it for £60. It was fully working and made a nice base for this project. So yeah, nice wood grips, very cheap. Brought the total of the project to like £63 or something, plus the varnish, just under 78 or something. The upper is less modified. There isn't really so much you can do to a slide. I don't know why I keep calling it an upper. Slide. Slide is the right word. But it did come with a Garda, aluminium or other cheap metal outer barrel, which gives it a nice metallic noise when you're cooking it. Other than that, the upper is pretty much a standard TM Detonics one. It's got those little horrible sights. I guess it's adequate enough for close range. Shame they don't have any dots on, but guess it's kind of what you expect of a small gun. As I said, the outer barrel is metal, which is nice. Looks pretty good, very nice, sharp. I assume it isn't machined. They probably would have made more of a deal of that if it was a CNC'd barrel, but I think it's just a cast one. But if it is, it's very crisp casting, very nicely done. This particular gun seems to have rather than the normal Detonics one that TM comes with, that has a screw on the end. This looks like it's from an Army Armament Detonics, just sort of a flush spring guide. And it's mainly standard other than that, really. If I get inside it again, which is always a pain because it's got one of these annoying flush slide locks. I'll just get that out. The inside was a little bit beaten up. Looks like someone's just taken a load of file to it and sliced it up, which I'm not really sure what that was about, but did end up working okay. So anyway, here's the non-captive guide rod and spring. On the TM Detonics, there's a screw on the end that keeps it all captive. So, oops, that wasn't there. And I just lost the guide rod. Give me a second. Okay, guide rod's back. As I said, we've got this metal outer barrel, which gives it a nice sound. Due to the spring-loaded system inside here, it'll never jam like on other heavy metal barrels. So this is a good gun to add a metal barrel to. There's no bad effect to that. Inside, we've got the slide reinforcement and locking kind of face of the new nickel Series 70, which the person who sold me this added to it, which means when you open the chamber, you go from seeing a nice shiny barrel to a nice shiny inside. Looks good. And pretty much everything else inside is standard TM. It's a little bit worn and old, but I kind of assumed it would be, paying you know, well, pretty much half price of what it would have cost if a shop had to put something like this together. Hopefully this video hasn't run on too long. As I said, it's not a full review or anything. It's really just a quick look at what I built. Performance-wise, it's not got the hop's a little bit worn, to be honest. I could probably stick a Firefly or whatever they're called, hop-up rubber in it. But it's lifting a 0.25 just about. 0.2s and 0.23s are shooting very well. Strange thing, which I really can't sort of figure out with this gun, is that it doesn't like low-powered gases. 134A will virtually do nothing. It just hardly works. Abbey Ultra is just about acceptable, but cooldown's really bad. So even though it's got a small plastic slide, and this would normally be a big no-no with any other TM, I use Garda power-up gas. As I said, this is a TM 1911 magazine, a little bit worn, but I sort of refinished it with Birchwood Casey Aluminium Black, which has now mostly worn off. But it's a 25 round mag, or 26. It's just standard 1911 mag, so you're not using those tiny little shiny Detonics mags. That's one thing I like about using the full frame, is even though it's a small package, now I've done that and everything, it does use the full-size mags, so you can use your MEU mags or your 1911 mags. And obviously with this gas, it's very snappy. It kind of feels like a CO2 pistol or something, but it probably looks like that. Not amazing kick, but it cycles incredibly quickly. Efficiency's not incredible. Can just about get through a whole mag, but it is a single stack. And considering a real 1911 mag is 7 or 8 rounds, I'm not going to complain about getting 25, 26 shots out of this. That's acceptable for me. Best thing to do is load it to about 18 or 19 rounds, and it should be able to go through that happily. FPS with Garda power up is very good. It's about 290, 300. Considering the actual barrel is only about 2.5, 3 inches. It's probably about 3 inches. That's quite good. And the hop up's good, of course, being a TM, very accurate. It makes a very nice compact pistol. And try and give you an idea of size, even though it is sort of a full-size frame, all of this being taken off does take a lot of size off it. I've got small hands, and as you can see, I can kind of take up a lot of the pistol. Doesn't look massive. So yeah, overall I'm very happy. It kind of serves as proof that you can do little custom builds without spending too much. Obviously these kind of prices don't come up every day, but it's cost me under £70 overall. It's quite a nice little compact 1911, and guess that finishes this video. Luckily we're under half an hour, which is a nice change. As I said, I'm going to be uploading a couple of other videos. Cult Police Positive. Feel free to comment on anything. If there's anything you want to know how I made, I'd be happy to maybe make another video if anyone wants to know. And I've got some more videos on the way, so thank you for watching.